Hey guys.
On the 25th of April 2005, a 7-car commuter train passing through the Japanese city of Amagasaki catastrophically derailed. The accident would almost entirely destroy the train, cause severe damage to a nearby apartment building, and cost more than
I have not... Oh, what happened here? I have not been to this specific train station. I have heard about it. I think when you start living in Japan, you start talking to the locals and you start venturing out, you start hearing all sorts of stories about random things, especially if you start talking to the elderly. I have an elderly neighbor and she basically was talking to me. It was very hard to understand because, again, my Japanese is not where it should be considering the fact that I've been living here for so long. But she was talking about this Kobe train derailment and it kind of piqued my interest. So I thought we would react to a video in regards to it and then we can use Google Maps and kind of just search around. Yeah, that's kind of what we're doing. I guess I should have done a better intro, but here we go.
100 commuters their lives. A later investigation would reveal the cause: fear and uncertainty on the part of the driver over a delay of just 90 seconds.
Can you imagine, you guys, being so worried about being punished for being 90 seconds late? You know, I know a lot of people talk about how punctual Japanese people are, the trains more specifically, and how everything is just, so on point. But like, at what cost? Because I don't feel humans should be like working like this. And even now, a lot of like people are like, oh yeah, I work at this Japanese company, I'm working all these hours and, I don't leave until my boss leaves. And even foreigners are starting to take up this mindset. And I'm like, dude, why do you want to become such a mindless robot? Like what? Why? Like go home. Go home. I'm sorry. I'm very against the Japanese working system here in Japan. Not all companies are like this. Let's not generalize it or anything. But a lot of companies are still like this. And a lot of people, even foreigners, are taking up this mindset of like all work and no play kind of a thing. It is not the way to go. I'm sorry, but like go home. And if your coworkers are going to like have any say about it, like they're gonna like be snooty with you because you happen to go home because you have a family and you don't want to be working your life away. I'm sorry, excuse my language, but F them. Like go home. Sorry. This just really triggers me.
Japan's railway network is known the world over for its speed and efficiency. Japan pioneered high-speed rail transport with the Shinkansen bullet train, and is known for having a rail network that is extremely punctual and reliable. While train services in other parts of the world measure delays in minutes, most of Japan's rail companies measure their delays in seconds. The West Japan Rail Company, also known as JR West, came into existence in 1987.
I thought JR West has been around longer than that.
Following the breakup of the state-owned rail company, Japan National Railways. It took over operation of a small number of high-speed rail lines, and a much larger network of regular commuter rail routes. One of these commuter routes is the Fukuchiyama line, which runs from the city of Fukuchiyama to the city of Osaka. Amagasaki, an industrial city home to around 500,000 people, is officially the last stop on the Fukuchiyama line, with trains running onto another line to complete their journey to Osaka and beyond. On the day of the disaster, train 5418M departed the Karazuka station bound for Amagasaki at 9:03 am. It was 15 seconds late. Just a few minutes earlier, the driver, 23-year-old Ryujiru Takami,
so young, and to be that stressed over a few seconds and just like that, it breaks my heart. Honestly, it breaks my heart to hear that. And even now, there has been a lot of improvement, but even now, a lot of people are under these strict quotas, time management, all this other stuff. And I'm just like, wow, like a lot of Japanese people walking around, going to work and stuff, but like, they're not happy. They don't look happy. They look miserable. They look dead inside. And it breaks my heart. Live in such a beautiful country and to be so miserable, you know?
Had accidentally passed a red signal at low speed, causing the train's automatic braking system to kick in and bring it to a halt. As a result of this, the service was now running very slightly behind schedule. This minor delay was exacerbated by a rush of passengers at Ikeda Station a little further down the line. With the train more crowded than had been anticipated, it took a few extra moments to close the doors and move away, pushing the delay up to almost a minute. This was problematic as JR West stipulated that a delay of more than 28 seconds on this route was unacceptable. To try and reduce the delay back down to an acceptable level, driver Takami ran the train at close to its maximum speed as it passed through the next stations. As the train approached Itami Station, an alarm sounded in the driver's cab, indicating that the train was travelling too fast for its upcoming stop. Driver Takami was slow to react, and when he eventually brought it to a halt at the station, he found that he had overshot the platform by the length of 3 carriages. Backing up to the platform so that passengers could embark and disembark pushed the total delay up to 1.5 minutes. At this point, driver Takami made a phone call to the conductor at the rear of the train. He knew that the conductor had to report the overshoot, but Takami asked him to play down the distance involved, perhaps saying that it was 1 carriage length rather than 3. The conductor, displeased by this, ended this conversation abruptly by telling Takami that he was driving too fast. Despite this, driver Takami attempted to make up time and reduce the delay on the service by running the train as close as possible to maximum speed through the next few stations. As the train approached Amagasaki Station, it was travelling at 116 km per hour, or 72 miles per hour.
I wonder how fast the Japanese trains normally run. Let's look. So it looks like this is giving me a lot of information for the Shinkansen. But what about like regular trains? Okay, so 50 to 62 miles per hour. Wow, that's crazy.
As it entered a curved section of track, it derailed, with the frontmost cars smashing into a nearby apartment building. Because the rail network in Japan is generally considered extremely safe, very little distance is left between buildings and railway lines in metropolitan areas. Damage to the apartment building and to the train was extensive. The front 2 cars were almost completely destroyed, resulting in the death of every single person on board, driver Takami included.
That looks insane. Wow. I have not seen these images or anything, but that is crazy. Can you imagine being a first responder and just coming onto the scene and just seeing all the wreckage? I mean, look at this train. It is literally just crumpled up, like literally just wrapped itself around this apartment building. That is crazy.
In the remaining 5 cars, hundreds of people were injured, many seriously. The wreckage created a short circuit in the track, causing all local signals to default to red. This gave time for an approaching train to apply its emergency brake and come to a stop just 50 meters, or 165 feet, from the wreckage. Local residents who had witnessed or heard the crash converged on the site of the wreck and began extricating injured passengers. The emergency services were soon on the scene.
Imagine
while ambulances transported the most
like
seriously
living near
injured to hospital,
where this happened,
those with less
as it
severe
happened,
injuries were moved
and
using
just like
taxis,
hearing that
police
loud
cars, and
boom
flatbed
sound,
trucks.
and then just
The
seeing all
Japanese
this
self-defense
wreckage
force
and
was
just
called in to assist with the rescue
I would be
operation.
traumatized. I think
It
I
was
would
a
probably
slow
be
and
so
painstaking
traumatized that I'd be like,
process.
all right, I think it's
The
time to
apartment
move.
building
I don't
had
think I'd be
contained
able
a
to
parking
live
garage,
knowing
and the
that I
train
had
had
witnessed
destroyed
something
several
like this.
cars as it passed directly
You know what I mean?
through it,
Like I would want to move
resulting
out
in
of
a
the
massive
area.
spillage of gasoline. No tools that might create sparks could therefore be used during the initial part of the rescue operation. There had been 700 people on board the train as it approached Amagasaki Station. 107 of them lost their lives in the crash, and 562 people were injured. As soon as the rescue and recovery operation had concluded, an investigation began to try and determine the cause of the accident. Suspicion swiftly fell on driver Takami, who had been driving the train at a speed wholly inappropriate for the curve it was navigating when it derailed. Driver Takami had been fit and well.
I'm surprised
At
there wasn't like a
23 years
fire
old,
or
his
anything,
sight was
considering the
good,
fact
and he
that,
had not suffered a
there's all
medical
this
emergency.
spilled gas and
The brakes
wow,
on board
that's
the train had
crazy.
also been functioning perfectly.
I think probably
What,
the
then,
loss
had
of
been the
lives probably
reason
would
for
have been
his
higher
excessive
if there
speed?
was fire. That's
As the
crazy.
investigation went on, it was speculated that Takami was concerned about the 90-second delay in the operation of the service, and that he had been driving the train at high speed to try and reduce this delay. Punctuality is extremely important for the Japanese rail network. Not only have users of the network come to expect the trains to run precisely on time, but the scheduling of trains often depends on trains arriving simultaneously, to allow passengers to transfer smoothly between different services. If one train is late, it can delay others, creating a ripple effect that's costly for the network. Because of this, JR West was extremely hard on its drivers, pushing them to keep to schedule. Drivers who accumulated too great a delay while navigating a route, or who overshot station platforms as driver Takami had done, could be subjected to disciplinary measures. Within JR West, these disciplinary measures were known as day shift education, and were unusually harsh. Workers responsible for delays could be forced to endure weeks of punitive duties such as weeding gardens, trimming grass, cleaning toilets, and copying out railway policy documents by hand. They were often subject to verbal abuse and financial penalties, and might not be told how long it would be before they could return to their normal duties.
That's one thing I noticed living here in Japan, is that the Japanese people tend to be pretty impatient because they're so used to having everything like on time, everything, and like customer service, like you're waiting at a cash register, to go ahead and check out. Someone is like, oh, I'll help you, even if it's only two people in line, you and someone else, there's already, okay, all this extra people coming up help you. So I feel like in a sense, yeah, it's good that everything runs on time, but at the same time, again, at what cost? I think I'd go insane working in like retail or just anything like this. I think I would just be so stressed out of my mind.
Driver Takami had already been reprimanded once before, and would have been keen to avoid a repeat of the experience. With this in mind, he may have felt compelled to drive the train at a higher speed than normal to reduce the delay he'd accrued. It was also noted that he had briefly activated the service brake in the final moments before the crash, but had not used the emergency brake. Pulling the emergency brake would have required him to justify its use to his superiors, which would have forced him to reveal that he had been driving at excessive speed. It is possible that his fear of punishment not only prompted him to drive too fast, but also deterred him from using the emergency brake. As details of JR West's re-education program came to light, the company was heavily criticised. A wave of resignations followed, including the company's president, Masao Yamazaki. He was also charged with negligence for his role in creating the conditions that led to the crash. He was ultimately found not guilty, as it was believed that the crash had been impossible to predict.
I'm glad that he resigned, but I think he should have been punished.
The company as a whole, however, was heavily criticised by the court. Staff who had been subject to day shift education brought a lawsuit against JR West, and 61 employees were awarded monetary compensation for the treatment they had endured. JR West revised their treatment of employees going forward. While punctuality would remain important to the company, drivers would not face harsh or humiliating penalties for small delays.
But I'm sure they're still penalized. I don't think it's all hunky-dory over there. I'm pretty sure. I've even heard some horror stories in regards to Amazon drivers here in Japan. You hear about it even abroad, but it happens here in Japan too. So just be careful for those of you that are wanting to live in Japan, because you might be having to deal with some of this.
Following the crash, the Ministry of Land and Transportation asked rail companies across the country to install new controls on their networks to limit speed on sharply curved sections of track. This type of new control was implemented on the curve where the accident had taken place, and the overall speed limit for that section was also reduced. The apartment complex which had been hit by the train was mostly demolished, although one corner of it was retained and incorporated into a memorial to the 107 people who died in the derailment.
This might sound a little weird, but I wonder if you can actually go inside the building. I don't know, just to kind of like see like a different perspective of everything.
J.R. West went on to found a safety research institute, which conducts ongoing studies into hazards on the railway network. One of the main duties of this institute is to consider how the dangers caused by human factors can be reduced or neutralized. They cover everything from how to respond to intoxicated passengers on a platform to how to foster a workplace environment where workers feel able to provide critical feedback. The 25th day of every month is designated a safety day, and the company maintains details of the derailment on their website, taking full responsibility for it, and considering their responsibility to victims and their relatives going forward.
Yeah, if you go on the JR website, you do see like a bunch of postings and information in regards to this.
It seems as though, in the aftermath of the Amagasaki derailment, the culture which caused the accident is, for now, no more.
That is so sad. Honestly, I know it sounds like I'm kind of negative or I guess bashing in a sense in regards to the Japanese work system, but like it is what it is, you know, and it's not good. Honestly, I heard horror stories from friends, from acquaintances. I'm a chatty Cathy. Despite not knowing the language, I have learned to grow out of my shell and interact with the locals, and I order a lot of Amazon, so I talk to a lot of my Amazon drivers using Google Translate, but you know, I try. They tell me some horror stories sometimes. I thought very quickly before we wrap up this video that I would go onto Google Maps and just kind of see the area where the train derailment happened and the memorial, because I haven't looked at that and I'm very curious to see what it looks like today. Again, I don't know how often Google Maps is updated, but I just thought it would be kind of interesting to just see. Here we are. It's called Inori no Mori. Sorry if I'm butchering these words. I will try to work on my pronunciation of things. Also, English is not my first language, as well as I have an accent when I speak, but I try to mask it so it doesn't really sound, although there are times where like it'll kind of come out here and there. I try to, you know, so just bear with me, okay? Because if I'm kind of self-conscious of my accent. Always have been and probably always will be, but hopefully I can work through that at some point. Anyway, so this is, okay, let's click on here. So I guess this is the train station. I wonder if that apartment building is in here. Is that where it's at, or is it just somewhere else? I'm not really sure. Let's see if there's any more pictures or reviews. Okay, side of the Amagasaki derailment. Okay, so this person posted some pictures. Sorry, this might be a little hard to see, but I guess I can't expand the picture. But this is the, what did they call it? A centotaph? So this is what it looks like. Is there more pictures? Oh, here we go. This is what I wanted to look at. Whoops, what happened? So it's all in Japanese, but if you're interested, you could go ahead and pause the screen and then you can go ahead and read. Oh, so it is in that building that we saw earlier. Okay, so there's the apartment building. It looks like you can't really go in though. Oh, that'd be so interesting to just like go in and just like go on the patio and just overlook everything. I don't know. I just think that would be interesting. So this is the West JR website, and this talks a little bit more in regards to the memorial and monument. So I guess you can't take pictures, no smoking, no food or drinks, no sports, playing. Why would you play sport? What? No pets. Oh, and you are requested to write your name in the visitor's book when you come to Inori no Mori. Interesting. Again, as I mentioned earlier, I have never been to this particular train station. I would love to go and just to like look around. Obviously, I wouldn't be able to film it or show you guys anything, but just like for, you know, my own, I guess, curiosity and also to pay respects, I would love to go and just look around. I just think that'd be so interesting. In fact, there's a few things like this that I've been to, not just here in Japan, but also abroad. And I just find it interesting, just like going to these memorial sites and just looking at everything. I know there's also some YouTube channels that kind of do that, where they'll talk about crime scenes or disasters that have happened, and they'll go ahead and talk about it and show pictures and stuff. I think it's just very interesting. I'll leave links to everything in the description down below for any of you that may be interested. There's also some information on Wikipedia, which I'll go ahead and leave linked in the description down below. But yeah, that is just so sad. I hope you're all doing well. Please like and subscribe if you haven't done so already. What's wrong with I can't talk. Please like and subscribe if you haven't done so already. Take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and if you have pets, please take care of your pets, and I'll catch you guys on the next one. Peace.